All right, everybody, welcome back for another one. We're doing the Test 7 math. I've learned my lesson this time. I'm going to be testing with extended time so I don't have to chase the clock towards the end and feel rushed um, because I am explaining these as I go. So in the Blue Book app, when you log in and go to your practice tests, you can select this toggle to give yourself extra time. I'm going to go ahead and use double time and breaks as needed, so I could probably pause and explain if we come across something that's going to be strange here. I've never done test 7. I did the reading the other week, so today we are going to, and it looks like there's my pause button. We're going to go ahead and skip the reading sections because that's a different video. And we're going to go right into the math section today. Um, so get your notebooks ready, pause the video if you're watching this later on YouTube. But if you're watching this live on my Twitch stream, then buckle up. Here we go. Sometimes I go fast, but we're doing it with extended time today, so hopefully I'll take my time to explain things. So the first couple of questions in Module 1 are going to be fairly basic, a little bit of calculation here and there, but most of the time we want to take a conceptual approach. We want to think about slope, y-intercept, vertex, discriminant, those kinds of things. So don't bother reading this big wall of text here is my first piece of advice. When you come across a question like this where they've got a bunch of words there, notice the answer choices first. Here they're not just numbers, they're equations. So we've got a linear function. You can tell because it has the same format as y equals mx plus b. We'll go ahead and write that out. So y equals mx plus b. M, as you recall, is the slope, and b is the y-intercept. Pardon my handwriting. The y-intercept. So given that, now I know in the answer choices I've got slopes of 1.9 for options A and B. I've got slopes of 2 and -2 for options C and D, and I see that I've got 2 and -2 up here as well for the y-intercepts. So I'm going to go ahead and find the slope in the y-intercept. If we paid $2 for the box of cereal, what do we think that is? It's an initial price, and then $1.90 per pound, and a total of $9.60. So definitely going to be equal to $9.60, but it's not $1.90 per pound. And if P is the number of pounds, well, I got to multiply those two things because I've got think about the unit of measurement as dollars per pound, which we represent as LB, times the number of pounds, LB. Well, that's my unit cost. Here they say it's 190. And then the amount of pounds they say is P. And then the initial cost was 2. And I'm not going to subtract that from the cost. It's an added cost. So naturally, this is going to be A. I'm going to speed up a little bit. Don't need to over-explain things here. 25x plus 30, another linear function. X is 2. Just plug it in. 25 times 2 plus 30, so naturally 80. Here we've got a downward exponential function, or maybe even the beginning of a quadratic. Again, don't worry about all the text or the context, just read it. What is the best interpretation of the y-intercept? Well, the y-intercept's at 225, but we're not meant to find the value. In fact, all the answer choices give you the value. We want to know what is the meaning of it. It's the value when the number of months is 0. So it was the initial price of whatever this object is. So probably going to be A. I don't even know what the object was other than this is telling me it was a tablet. I know it was the initial value because that's when time was 0. The estimated value 24 months after it was purchased? No. Estimated value of the tablet decreased by 225? No. Percent change? No. Function of the number of months? Yeah. The value of a tablet is a function of the number of months since it was purchased, not until it was purchased or something like that. They're not getting crazy here. Simple algebra question for number 4. We got absolute value. Don't let that wig you out. Absolute value of p plus 61. We're going to go ahead and subtract that 61 over. And of course, that's 4. Absolute value of p is 4. So with absolute value, you get two solutions. It's either going to be positive 4 for p or negative 4 for p. Because if I put in positive 4, I get 4 equals 4. If I put in negative 4, remember that absolute value just knocks the negative off and makes that positive 4 again. So of course, that is our only solution. Triangles are congruent. Fine. We've got our first geometry question. I'm always tempted to just draw the triangles. They don't tell me that any of them are 90. Do not assume. So I've got triangle EFG. They tell me JKL are congruent, and they correspond in that order. E to J, F to K, G to L. Measure of E is 45. The measure of F is 20. What is the measure of J? Well, what do we know about triangles? Triangles add to 180, so if I need to, I can find angle G here and find what that missing angle is. But remember that J corresponds to E, and in congruent triangles, their angles are congruent. Corresponding angles are going to be congruent, so J is just 45. Let's see what we got here. Got a little bigger. Clean that up. Make it a little bigger. All right, make it a little easier to see. Okay. Don't care about any of that. Ball is launched from 7 feet off the ground. We know that from the y-intercept. It's a parabola. It's an upside-down parabola. It has a negative y-intercept, or a negative leading coefficient. So let's go ahead and move this over. Our format here, our formula, is y equals ax squared plus bx plus c. So for this format, it's a quadratic. It's a parabola. Looking at the graph here, we know c is 7. We know the y-intercept is 7 there, but it also opens down, so a is negative. Whatever it is, it's negative. And that's about all we can tell. We also know that there's a x-intercept here at 1, 0. So that's one of the factors. What are they asking? From a platform that is 2 feet shorter than the first platform. Okay, so we're just going to lower everything down, right? You just take the y-intercept down 1, 2, and the y-intercept becomes 5. And I don't even think we need to finish reading the question. I think we just need to find a y-intercept that's 5. It's probably going to be B. That goes up to 9. That goes way up. Yeah, that has a y-intercept at 5. Platform's 2 feet shorter. They didn't change the launch velocity or anything like that, so don't have to worry about changing the shape of it at all. So all that preliminary analysis was a little wasted effort, but that's all right from time to time. All right, it's going a little off the screen there. Let me go ahead and move that. There we go. Okay. Ratio of x to y is equivalent to 9 to 5. Just write it out. Don't try to do this stuff in your head. X to y equals 9 to 5. If the value of x is 162, 162 over y equals 9 over 5. Now we just cross multiply. And so bringing everything to its proper place, 162 times 5 would be 810, I think. Get my handy dandy calculator up here. Never trust your brain. 162 times 5, 810, yep. 810 divided by 9 is 90. So let me show you how that all worked. So just some basic algebra manipulation here. So you cross multiply. Oh, let me get a different color on the board. You just bring these together and bring these together. Oh, that made some arrows. All right. just bring those together. And then you get 5 times 162 equals 9 times y. Sorry for the sloppiness there. 5 times 162 is 810. Times equals 9y. Divide the 9 over. That cancels, of course. 81 divided by 9 is 2. I need to pop the... Sorry, is 9. 9. Sorry, my brain calculated that is 18 for a moment. Only 1 cup of coffee today. 90 is our final answer when you divide that out. Just a little basic algebra for the day. All right, we got another paragraph question here. I see the equation in there. It's a linear function in standard form. 1 attendee, 1 S square tokens, and C circle tokens. Who cares? That's total. Fine. S and C must be the number of points. Because remember the unit conversion, the unit rate multiplication here. If 80 times S plus 90 times C is giving us 1112 points, this represents a unit of measure of points. So 80S, if S is the number of tokens, I must have points per token times number of tokens if my result is in points, because these units need to cancel out. So 80 must represent the number of points per square token, 90 must represent the number of points per circle token, and then they go ahead and ask how many more points is a circle worth than a square. So just subtracting those two numbers, 90 and 80, you get 10. All right, we get our first nonlinear equivalent here. This is just factoring. They want to know the solution to the given equation. So there's a couple ways to do these. And the very simplest way is to just do the algebra. You got x plus 9 times x minus 9 equals 7. Zoom in on that. So that's a plus and a minus in the numerator there. So the x plus 9s, of course, I'm probably going too slow for a lot of you guys. But I want to take a little bit more of a chill day today. X plus 9, x minus 9 over x plus 9. That cancels out. This all still equals 7. X minus 9 then equals 7. Add the 9 over. X equals 16. And for those in pre-calc, that would be a removable discontinuity, right? And that cancels out. Add another linear function here. Relates the variables t, b, c, which of the following correctly expresses the value c minus b in terms of t. So this is a rearranger. They want it in terms of t, so get t over on one side. They want c minus b in terms of t, so we can do that in one move. If I've got 12t minus b, or plus b rather, equals c, subtracting b from both sides gets us the target question. 12t equals c minus b. And that's the answer. That's it. We're done. Don't be intimidated by seeing stuff that is not usual. Normally your math textbooks and math teachers, they're going to want like b equals or x equals. Here they ask for c minus b equals, and that's totally fine. 12t. All right, we got a polynomial here. What is an x-coordinate of an x-intercept? So that's just testing to see if you know what an x-intercept is. Remember when you have the binomials and you have these things equal to 0, and you solve for those binomials, you get the x-intercepts. So that'd be 14, -5, or -4. Any of those three options would be acceptable, but they just want one. They didn't ask what are all of the things, and they'll never ask for more than one answer. So just give the one, any one of them that you care to submit. Positive or negative is also acceptable. The leading coefficient of 3 out here does not change the math because, again, we're setting this equal to 0, and that 3 would just divide off. Ooh, this looks scary, but don't let this fool you. This is actually pretty basic. We're just plugging in 1/4, and what do you notice right away? When you plug in 1/4 into this expression, what's going to happen? We're going to cancel that out. So if we have 5 times 1/4 minus 1/4 squared plus 11/4. Oop, I'm off the screen again. These 1/4 are going to cancel out. That becomes 0. So 5 times 0 squared, well, 0 squared is just 0, and 5 times 0 is 0. And this plus 1/4 just carries down. So that all just cancels out, and that's our answer. Don't feel the need to reach for Desmos or any calculator right away just because the equation looks scary. Take your time and think about it. All right, we got a circle, standard form, center at 13K. So I know the answer right away is going to be this one. So yeah, the center is 13K. Opposite of those numbers there gives you the center. And then the square root of this term out here gives you the radius. So radius of 8. Another fill in the blank. Okay, another circle question. So they give us the radius this time. They want the area. What is the value of b? Okay, just calculate the area then. Area of a circle is given in the reference. Don't forget that you have this reference up here in the top right corner. So if you need it, pop that guy open and there's the equation for the area. You should memorize it, but it is right there. So area of a circle is pi r squared. Ooh, my squared is being weird. There we go. So 2.1 squared is our radius squared, and that's all they want. It's pi times b in the question. So as soon as I square this 2.1, and I'm going to be lazy, I'm just going to go ahead and do it in Desmos. My Desmos is being weird because I zoomed in. All right, 2.1 times 2.1, 4.41. If you guys watch me, you'll know that I hate decimals and fractions. I like fractions better than decimals, but I hate decimals, and I refuse to multiply them or divide them in my head because I never trust it. I don't track the decimal very well in my head. So use your tools. Got a paragraph there I'm going to skip. We got a scatter plot, looks somewhat linear. Average rate of change in C, temperature there, time in minutes there. What is the average rate of change in C per minute? So they're asking for the slope of the recorded temperature from x equals 5 to x equals 7. So not the whole thing, but specifically from 5 to 7. So you just take literally those exact coordinate points. That's all you got to do. At 5, we have a y value of 14. Remember, the equation for slope is change in y. So y1 minus y2 over change in x. x1 minus x2. And no, the order of this doesn't matter. You could do y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1, but whatever you put first, make sure that it's first on both top and bottom. If you put coordinate point 2 in the first position, make sure that y2 is first and x2 is first. That's the only order that matters. Because that'll determine your positive and negative, but if you're paying attention, you should be able to get it anyway. Our y coordinate at 5 is 14 minus y coordinate at 7 is 24. 5 minus 7, of course, is negative 2. That's going to be negative 10 over negative 2, which is positive 5. And you could have done that the other way around. You'd end up getting the same number anyway. All right, we got a linear system in standard form. I just realized you guys can't hear the music that I'm listening to. Is anybody in the chat? Nobody's in the chat just yet saying anything, but if you want to hear the music, go ahead and say so, and I'll turn the music on for you guys. It's rather smooth. But anyway, let's continue on. This is a pretty neat question here. I recognize this format. You notice something here about the system. They want the value of 39x. They don't want x, they want 39x. And they also gave us these coefficients of y that are equal but opposite. So if I just add straight down, they cancel out. We get 0 equals 13x. And then what happens there? Negative 23 and 7, that's going to be negative 6. If I want 39x, I just got to multiply this by 3. 0 equals 39x minus 18. Add the 18 over, and you get 18. Ooh, ugly 18. Better 18. All right, equals 39x. So positive 18 is our answer. That's a neat trick. The SAT loves to do stuff like that. Look for opportunities to just add and simplify. Don't have to actually solve for x. All right, our first exponential function, you see it right there in the middle of the page. Leading term is the y-intercept. 2 is the rate of growth, so we're beginning at 40,000. 2 is the rate of growth, and it happens once every 790 periods of time, I guess minutes. That's what they give us here. How much time in minutes does it take for the number of bacteria to double? Well, that's exactly what we just said, 790. I'm going to explain this one a little bit more. The standard form of an exponential function is a equals p times 1 plus or minus r to the tx. You got to know what each of these letters represent and how to recognize it in the test, and that's how you get through these questions very quickly. P is the y-intercept. Always will be. It's the initial value, the place that you begin. R is the rate of growth, or the percent change. Percent delta is how we'll represent that. T, up there, that guy is the period of growth. It's how much time it takes for one interval of growth to occur. So in this example here, the rate of growth is 2. It's doubling. It's 100% growth. If they asked for, like, what is the rate of growth, I'd say 100%, or it doubles. If they asked for the y-intercept, or the initial amount of bacteria, I'd say 40,000. Here they asked for how much time does it take. I said 790 minutes. If they asked for it in hours, we'd divide that number by 60. But it's the period of growth. That is how much time, I'll type in the text box here, how much time it takes for one period of growth. If t equals 1/2, for example, then one growth every 2 units of time. So if it was like t over, in our expression here, if it was t over 2, then it would grow once every 2 minutes. If it was 2/3 t, then it would grow twice every 3 minutes. So it's the, in my study guide that I have for my students, it is t equals occurrences divided by time. All right, number 18. All right, looks like simple algebra. And again, they're asking not for x, but 2 minus 4x. And you see it right there in the equation. 2 minus 4x, 2 minus 4x. So what we're going to do, because this is repeated in here, the strategy on this is to replace that repeated value with a simpler variable, because we don't actually want to solve for x. We want to solve for 2 minus 4x. So we're going to say in our expression, 2 minus 4x equals a. And we're going to say 5 minus 7, not 2 minus 4x, but rather a. We're simplifying this. Equals 16 minus 8a. Wherever we have 2 minus 4x, we simplify it with a simpler term. So now I can just combine like terms. You can ignore those parentheses and just say 7a and 8a. Adding the 8a over, we get positive a. So 5 plus a equals 16. Subtract the 5 over, and you get a equals 11. Just double checking my math here real quick. Yes. Remember that a equals 2 minus 4x, which is what they're asking for, so our answer is simply 11. When you see a repeated term, replace it with something simpler. All right, we got a big paragraph again. I'm going to show my actual strategy if I was under a time limit here. I do have this up here, but it's not. We're on number 19 and we got 45 minutes. We're going to be fine. All right. So my real strategy, if you're under the time here, is read the question first, the very ending of the big paragraph questions. So how many dragonflies were in the habitat on January 1st? Well, okay, what's the significance of January 1st in this context? Scientists studying the life cycle of dragonflies counted the number of dragonflies each day for 46 days. February 15th, there were 99. Fine. Percent increase was 12.5. Okay, so this is the exact same formula that we had here. We're just going to apply this knowledge to this context. We're finding the p-value. We've been given a coordinate point on February 15th, day 46. Is that 46? How many days are there in January? Oh, 31 plus 15. Yeah, 46. Okay. Now, this is a little bit of an unfair question because they do expect you to know how many days are in January. I guess that's not unfair for people who are wanting to go to college. You should know how many days are in January. I probably just embarrassed myself, though. I'm going to double check. How many days are in January? Yeah, 31. Okay. All right, so let's go ahead and build our equation. We've been given a coordinate point. 99 is the y value. P is our variable. Our rate of growth is 12.5%, so this is 1 plus 0.125. The percent increase from that to 15th. Oh, that's not a daily increase. I'm thinking of this as a daily increase of 12.5%, so that's not correct. That's not correct. It is the total increase. So we don't have an exponent here. This is just 1.125 the first. Like we don't have an x here. We don't really care about that 46 here. They counted that's there to throw us off. Some people are going to put this to the 46th power, but I am pretty darn certain that that is a trap. We're just going to divide 99 by 1.125. And again, our handy calculator. Zoom out so I can see it better. 99 divided by 1.125 is 88. And I bet that if I put that to the 46th power, one of these things is going to be an option. Ooh, not even. Notice how we get this crazy decimal here? 0.4391 and so on. Yeah, that's not even close to an option here. So yeah, this 46 here is a total distraction. The wording there is very significant. All right, that's just a percent change. To calculate percent change, percent delta, percent change is final minus initial divided by initial. And all I did here was just a rearranged version of it. If you multiply that initial value over, we'll say percent change equals final minus initial divided by initial. Multiply that initial over. Percent times the initial equals final minus initial. And then you add the initial over. So I plus percentage of I equals the final. Factor the I off. I times 1 plus the percentage equals the final. And that's the formula that I used. I happen to have memorized both of these, this guy here and this guy here. And it makes intuitive sense once you've done it enough times. So I do encourage you guys to take a moment to digest how these two formulas, or like this formula in its rearranged version, relate to this question here. This is a fairly common question type, and it could be useful to study this for a moment. All right, I encourage you to pause, take some notes. All right, I'm just going to go ahead and move on for the sake of the video. We got a quadratic. They give us a solution in quadratic form. Notice that we got that root k in there. They're basically suggesting to us to use the quadratic formula. Pause and try to think about what the quadratic formula is. And of course, all right. Sorry, I had a little distraction there in the Twitch chat. All right, let's go ahead and continue. We got a quadratic formula. We're going to just jam it in. If you remember it, b squared minus 4ac. Oop, what am I doing? That's the discriminant. Opposite of b, plus and minus, b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. And I would suggest doing this one by hand. There are probably some clever ones out there that can figure out how to do this in Desmos, but this is, for me at least, going to be a bit easier to do by hand. So I'm just going to take the coefficients in our formula, ax squared plus bx plus c. We've got 2, -8, and -7. The negatives come along with these guys. We'll just jam it in where they belong. So b is -8, so the opposite of -8 is 8, plus and minus, square root, 8 squared is 64, minus 4 times a is 2, c is -7, all over 2a, which is 4. 2 times 2 is 4. And so we just simplify this. Notice they just care about the k value. That's the discriminant here. If I was smart about it, I would just focus on the discriminant. So 64 minus 4 times 2 times -7. Well, of course, I'm going to go ahead and do the big numbers. -4 times -7 is positive 28. 28 times 2 is what? 56. 56 and 64 should be our answer. And I don't trust myself without my second cup of coffee. So let's go ahead and just multiply that. 56 times 64. Don't feel ashamed for using a calculator. No shame in doing that. 3584. And that should be our correct answer. Because they don't want me to square root it. They just want what's under the square root. And if you really want to be certain about it, you could just type in all that stuff. You could just type in 8 squared minus 4 times 2 times -7. Did I mess up? Oh, I multiplied them. I was supposed to add them. This is why I double check. 120 seems a lot more reasonable. Always double check your work if you're feeling like you made a mistake. Yeah, I multiplied here. Yeah, I should have subtracted, and that's why thinking and double checking thing is so important. The function is defined as 19 more. Okay, so they just want us to write the function here. Just read it carefully. And they want us to interpret the x-intercept. F of x is defined as equals 19 more than 4 times the number x. If f of x is graphed in the xy plane, what is the best interpretation of the x-intercept? Well, the x-intercept happens when y is 0. So if y is 0, then we'll get x equals -14 over 9, or -19 over 4. When the number is 0, the function equals that. That's C is an interpretation of the slope. D is an interpretation of the slope. D is the correct interpretation of the slope, but C flips it, and B is the y-intercept. We want the x-intercept. They put real properties of the function in there to throw people off who don't know their terminology. So learn your terminology. Okay, we got some cosines and sines in here. This is kind of unusual. They don't often test on trig. Let's see what's going on. Is this double angle identity? Sum of angles? I can't remember. All right, so which of the following is equivalent? You could just jam this into Desmos. But this is also kind of a cofunction identity type of thing. Sine of 24 is equal to cosine of 20 or 66. Like for those of you who know cofunction, those are equal to each other. So I'm tempted to pick C just because of the cofunction identity. Yeah. So this is weird. They don't, I haven't seen this on an SAT in a long time. So cofunction identity. The cofunction identity says that if I have the sine of a number, the cosine of 90 minus that number is equal to it. So the cosine of A is equal to, or the sine of A is equal to the cosine of 90 minus A. 66 and 24 adds to 90. So this will satisfy the cofunction identity. Yeah, let's see why this is. I like teaching this. This is A, B, and 90. Let's call that A, B, and C. So the cofunction identity says that the sine of A is equal to the cosine of 90 minus A. Well, 90 minus A in this context is B, right? Because A, B, and 90 should add up to 180. So therefore, A plus B equals 90. A plus B equals 90. Let's make this bigger. Maybe that was a little bigger here. All right. So A plus B equals 90. So therefore, A equals, or B equals 90 minus A. So this right here is the cosine of B. Those are equal. And you can prove it. In that triangle, the sine of A, if you haven't thought it already, is A over C. The cosine of B is also A over C because of the definitions of sine and cosine. So in this context of this question, then thinking about these definitions, if the sine of one corner is equal to the cosine of the other corner, we can conclude somewhat happily because of this simple definition. And it's not so simple, I guess. We can conclude that we've just got cosine 66 times cosine 66, which is cosine 66 squared, and the same thing down there. That's a great ending question. All right, that module is over. I'm going to go ahead and take a break and then post module 2. I'm going to post module 2 in another video. If you guys learned anything, leave a like and subscribe. Leave a comment down below if you have any questions, and let me know if you'd like to hear the music, the smooth music that I'm listening to. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you next time.